A recent comment by Bryan Danielson kind of made me think about this in a way of like, why do we watch pro wrestling? And the more I thought about it, the more everything that I've been wanting to talk about on this channel, all the ideas for videos I've had for the next month or so, kind of go hand in hand with what he said. So, before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button today if you want more wrestling content. And check out my last video. I was at AEW Revolution, and I have Sting's full retirement speech uploaded on my channel that you can check out after this video. So, let's look at that quote from Bryan Danielson. I have it here on my phone. And this is always interesting to me because, why do people watch wrestling? What is that allure that brings people in? What is it that keeps them coming back and tuning in every week? And AEW superstar or wrestler, depending on which phrasing you want to use, Bryan Danielson said this. Something I said when I first joined AEW is that if you put on excellent professional wrestling, people will tune in. That's the goal weekly. Put on an excellent professional wrestling show. Now that brings me to what I wanted to talk about in other videos that I said I will talk about here because it goes hand in hand with what he was saying and talking about here. So yeah, why do people watch pro wrestling? What makes them keep coming back? And right now, I think you're looking at two different perspectives right now. Like, I think you look at AEW, you look at WWE, and I can tell you this is why I hate the tribalism that is going on with the fans, because fans are just like, oh, pro AEW, WWE sucks, AEW sucks, whatever. Oh, you're a WWE mark, you're an AEW mark. Guess what? At the end of the day, AEW and WWE offers something different for fans. It just comes down to uh your liking and what you like, what the fans want. If you want pro wrestling, if you want to see wrestling or you want to watch wrestling for the wrestling, you have AEW. Now, if you prefer story-based telling, then you have WWE. And right now, one company is killing it with storytelling and selling out record-breaking attendance every week using storytelling, which is WWE, while it's interesting to me how AEW is story-based, or is more wrestling-based, but they're not bringing in the viewers. We know about their attendance issues. And again, this is why I said this is pretty much going to be the culmination of like a bunch of videos I want to talk about, because this quote by Danielson kind of ties everything together. So you see WWE, they're selling out everywhere around the world. It doesn't matter where they go. I think they're on like 8 or 9 straight TV sellouts. Their Monday Night Raw tonight is in Raleigh, North Carolina, so that's only a couple hours from where I live. And I don't know if it's a sellout. I haven't seen anything about that being a sellout, but I imagine, based on recent shows, that it's probably going to be close to a sellout. While in AEW, we have seen people post pictures, fans have been posting pictures of Uh, oh, look at the attendant. Oh, look at all these empty seats, right? Let's hit my microphone here. Look at all these empty seats, and look at how many, all this other stuff, and people want to bring up. And yeah, I remember when people were doing that for WWE, like 10, 15 years ago, when WWE wasn't as hot as they are now, and they weren't selling out. People were like, "Oh, look at all these tarps and stuff." Yeah, right now they're doing the same thing for AEW, which is mind-boggling to me because now, granted, AEW Revolution, I think that's an kind of an outlier because it was built around Sting's last match. You had a lot of casuals tuning in, buying tickets. It was a full packed Greensboro Coliseum. Absolutely incredible show. But the thing for me was I knew with the show being built around Sting's last match, AEW had a chance to do something to keep the casual viewer, people who may not have tuned in for a while, they say they see Sting's last match, so they'll buy the pay per view. They may not know what AEW is, but they're a fan of Sting. So they'll buy the show to watch Sting and his last match and show support for him. But I don't know if AEW did enough to keep casuals and keep those people in because, yeah, was Will Ospreay, his match was, that was fantastic. To have seen that match in person, that was probably the best match that I've seen live in person ever as a fan. But again, that's great. Will Ospreay, he came out, had that great match with Takeshita, but the thing is, you gotta have a reason for fans to keep tuning in, and that's what makes this quote about so interesting because you have AEW signing all these free agents. They're bringing in Ospreay, Okada. We just saw Mercedes Moné debut last week in Boston. Now, mind you, it was her hometown, so again, built off the rumor, it was similar to CM Punk, where they basically sold a show around the idea of her being there. And now I'm going to be curious to see what is going to happen. Is she going to bring in the viewership, the fans the WWE fans that wanted her to go back to WWE as Sasha Banks? Are they going to tune in to see her in AEW? I look at somebody like Edge, who I know, granted, because of trademarks, he has to go by his real name, Adam Copeland. But again, you have a guy like him. He's feuding with Christian. He has a history with Christian. Everybody knows. At least, no, the diehard fans do. But yet, it almost feels like he's in a Bret Hart in WCW type of run where it's like Tony Khan doesn't really know what to do with him. And he didn't really move the needle for ratings for AEW. It wasn't like, hey, we have Adam Copeland here now, but fans are just kind of like, nothing's changed. It feels like, the attendance hasn't changed, and the ratings haven't changed. So they're signing all these big names, and yeah, like Danielson said, they're putting on fantastic wrestling matches. But the problem is, the fans aren't staying. It's not a matter of, okay, are they tuning in? Well, yeah, they're tuning in, but they're not staying. You're not giving them a reason why people are fighting. There's no story. And, AEW right now, I think their problem their problem is that they're basically booking for hardcore fans. Tony Khan is basically, what dream matches do I want to book? Here's what I'm going to book. There's not a lot of storytelling within AEW in the overall scheme of things. Obviously, right now there's great storytelling with Hangman Adam Page, Swerve going for the world title against Samoa Joe. That's great. So AEW does have their flashes every once in a while with good storytelling. But it's not a consistent enough storytelling. It reminds me so much of what the fans were complaining about before AEW came around. The general complaint around WWE before AEW came around, and when WWE was not having good attendance numbers before the pandemic, was basically, hey, why are these matches happening? The storytelling was inconsistent. Obviously, we all know, the script kept getting rewritten every week, last second, blah blah blah. Remember when we read all those reports about Raw and SmackDown being rewritten at the last second, things would change on the fly. And now you look at WWE with Triple H in charge, and there's more week to week storytelling, things that are being done to keep fans coming. Keep fans not just coming in every once in a while. They're tuning in every week. They're buying tickets. So again, I go back to what I said. Both AEW and WWE are seceding. Wrestling as a whole is booming right now. And each one has their own unique kind of thing that they can offer to fans. You want story-based telling? You watch WWE. You want your wrestling? You watch AEW. But it's clear that just the wrestling is not working for AEW because the attendance and the ratings aren't showing the way it is for WWE. So what is the reason that you tune in? Go in the comments below and hit me up and say, hey, tell me why you watch wrestling. What, is it the stories? Is it the wrestling? And I think for me, if AEW can ever get down the week to week storytelling, I mean, they have the talent. You can't deny that. They have the talent. But the week to week storytelling is the biggest flaw in AEW, is that they don't have that consistency of it being there every week. There's nothing that's going to keep the fans tuning in every week. So while you can have all these great matches, yeah, people will tune in for, great matches, and every once in a while you can get away with a dream match, in a match that doesn't have a whole lot of story around it, but will have a lot of intrigue and interest from the fans. But most of the time, you need some kind of story, a rhyme, a reason of why people are fighting. Like, you can't just, and that's kind of where I look at Mercedes Moné's debut. And while, like I said, once you get out of Boston and she's going to all these different places, they're touring and going to all these different places, what's going to be the crowd? Is she going to be performing in front of a big crowd? Is it going to be a sold out show? Is it, or are we going to see pictures of her, on a Collision Rampage, and there's going to be empty seats behind her? And people are going to be saying, well, she should have went back to WWE. So, again, that's why, to me, it's so important to me, it's not, I don't want to say it's so important, but it's so interesting to me how you have one end of the spectrum with WWE doing so well, setting records all over the world with story-based telling or story-based pro wrestling, while you have AEW kind of still trying to find what works for them. I mean, obviously the wrestling part works, but they're still trying to find what can bring the fans in weekly and week in, week out. What can keep the fans tuning in? Because clearly, despite the big name talents they have, something is not working that's keeping the fans coming back. Thus, we have all these pictures that surface on social media where it's like, oh, hey, you have Adam Copeland, Edge, performing in front of empty arenas almost, at least according to what some fans have said. And guys like John Mox, like Bryan Danielson, and people are like, why are they signing with them? Like, look at WWE. Why would somebody like Will Ospreay, Okada, why would Adam Copeland go over to AEW? When WWE is selling out everywhere they go. Don't they want to be in front of a sellout crowd? And, again, look, the fact that there's competition in pro wrestling where wrestlers have a choice to where they want to go and they can leverage each company against one another, that is great. That is great. We love to see it. Wrestlers get paid more. The business is booming. That's a great thing. But again, when you look at what's going on in WWE versus AEW, and you kind of see these pictures that go around with AEW not having full arenas, you kind of go, what is the reason? Is money really the only thing that they are worried about? Do they not want to perform in front of full sold out crowds? Like, it's unique in the sense that both companies are succeeding, going in different paths. And if AEW can find a way to mix in storytelling, mix in better creative, and give us more reason for why we should care about a match, and why, Bryan Danielson is facing this guy other than, hey, it's a dream match, then I think AEW can really regain that momentum they lost from the brawl out a couple years ago. So, again, Danielson has a point. I mean, look, I agree and I disagree with him. Fans will tune in to watch great wrestling, but also the ratings and attendance in AEW kind of disagree with that. And you look at WWE, all I'm saying is if AEW can incorporate more storytelling and consistent storytelling week to week, AEW can rebound. So, let me know in the comments below, what is more important in pro wrestling? Is it the storytelling? Is it the actual wrestling? Why do you watch it? And why do you keep tuning in? I've been your host, Mike, and I'll be back with another video later this week.